I was told I had a concussion and that I was taken off work for 2 weeks and given the sense that I'll be better in 2 weeks. So I go back to work. I was a cardiology nurse practitioner, a mom of young kids, and commuting an hour one way to work and working 40 plus hours a week. I had headaches and neck pain, but I had a lot of fatigue. I was irritable. I was saying things I would normally not say. And then one day on the way home, I fell asleep at the wheel.
Welcome to the Persistence U podcast with Lisbeth. That's you as in university, but we're really much more of a community here. Your host is Lisbeth Meredith. She's an author, speaker, and online teacher. Each week, she'll be delivering amazing stories from survivors and thrivers, all threaded together with a dose of persistence. We're so glad you're listening.
For sisters and brothers, I am going to introduce you today to Kelly Tuttle. Kelly, in her bio, she says she joined the Head Injury Survivors Club in 2015 when a car pulled out right in front of her. And she thought that she had survived and everything would be okay. But 3 months later, she realized that things were only declining in her life. A neurology nurse practitioner, Kelly has a front row seat to observe patients struggling with many of the same things that she experienced in her recovery. She's a member of the California Association for Nurse Practitioners and has many other distinguished memberships. Sorry, my mind just hit a total blank. Kelly is the author of a book that she'll talk to us today about her recovery, and I'm excited to have her. And speaking of excited in books, I'm really thankful, and I'm not sure she'll be listening, but big thanks to Tammy Horvath for her entry into the Solo Women Traveler anthology that I am putting together. And so want you to think about if you have anyone that you know of who was over the age of 40 when she, it would be a woman, used solo travel to help increase resilience and or help her reinvent or rediscover herself. Maybe a part of her got buried along in life and or helped her heal from trauma. If you know someone like that who frankly was changed due to a trip that she invested in herself, and if that someone is you, let me know. Join me at lameredith.com and ask for the call for entries. This takes a lot of time to get all of the different details together. So it is, or if it's you, gosh, I would be so excited to have that entry. Thanks so much. And I hope you're doing well today. I always appreciate your fantastic company, and I know that Kelly will appreciate it as well. Kelly Tuttle, thank you very much for being on Persistence U today. I am really excited for this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Me too.
It is truly my pleasure. Thank you. And it's so interesting to me. We were just chit-chatting a little bit, but Kelly, you are a nurse by trade, but you previously, before the big event happened in your life, you were a nurse in cardiology for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about your life and career and then that pivotal day where things changed? And then months later, you noticed how much they changed.
Yes. So my story starts with a thunderous clap of metal crunching, glass shattering, people coming out of their houses to see what happened, traffic stopping, sirens in the distance approaching. And I had been in a car accident where I had T-boned a driver who pulled out in front of me and I was unable to stop in time. And I thought, I'll just shake this off. I'll be okay. And even went to work the next day.
Mhm.
And that my colleagues who are also registered nurses and nurse practitioners gleaned that I was not myself and that I was having speech difficulty. And they told me to get seen by my general practitioner the next day, which I did. And I was told I had a concussion and that I was taken off work for 2 weeks and given the sense that I'll be better in 2 weeks. So I go back to work. I was a cardiology nurse practitioner, a mom of young kids, and commuting an hour one way to work and working 40 plus hours a week. And I tried so, so hard to get back into life. And I was having these symptoms I just didn't understand. Like, of course, I had headaches and neck pain, but I had a lot of fatigue. I was irritable. I was saying things I would normally not say. And then one day on the way home, I fell asleep at the wheel 3 months later.
My goodness, Kelly, that is
Yes.
terrifying.
Yes. And fortunately, bouncing off the road woke me up in time to slam on the brakes and not have my car hit a tree. And this is how well my concussed brain was working. It said, well, that's okay. We'll just take a nap on the side of the road on the way home. No one should do that. Don't sleep in your car. It's not safe. Instead, I should have let my doctor know and gotten care. But I was so determined just to get back to life and to get better that that's what I decided to do. And shortly after, I had lunch with a colleague who was a neurology nurse practitioner at the time. She was curious about my recovery and said, how are you doing? And I said, well, I've got these symptoms, that symptoms. Oh, and by the way, I fell asleep at the wheel. And she went, what? And I
Mm.
said, yeah. So now I'm just taking a nap in between work and home. And she's like, no, 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 no. That's not good. And she said, you need to get a brain scan and you need to see a physical medicine rehab doctor, PMR. And I was like, what's a PMR and doctor? And she's like, they used to be physiatrists, but they specialize in brain and spinal injuries. And once I saw that doctor, she recognized right away that there was problems. She took me off work for 3 months and then sent me at the time initially to a speech therapist and a neurotherapist. The speech therapist would help me with my speech, but also with my cognitive functioning while I was at work, such as motivation, time planning, prioritizing, organization, memory. And then I got sent to a neurotherapist because after a head injury, your visual processes can be disrupted. And the neurotherapist found that I was having difficulty tracking objects because I was having dizziness in my car. I'd feel nauseous when I scroll up and down my phone or work on a computer. And she helped me with that. But there was a lot more down the road in that recovery that I did. And then one day, a friend of mine called and said, hey, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing great. I've been reading all this stuff about the brain. I love it. I'm just finding it so fascinating. She goes, well, you should go into neurology. You would make a great provider because you've been there, done that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. And then I just stayed up late and put together a plan to do whatever it took that I needed to do to qualify for a position in neurology. And 2 years later, I got a job in neurology and I enjoyed it very, very much.
That's so exciting. And, we get in a grind as people at our jobs and we forget that we can retool and repurpose ourselves. And what a great way for you to make meaning out of what happened in your accident and with your own brain injury. So did you have to take other classes? What did you have to do to make it happen?
Well, yes. So I took a bunch of CMEs, so certification education.
Wow.
I did a lot of online stuff, read a lot of articles, bought a bunch of books, and then I went to seminars and attended seminars. And then my job that I got was a training job. So they knew they were taking on someone who would need training. And so I followed the neurologist, for at least a year. And they were really kind and they would say, okay, right, the first patients you're going to take care of are the patients with epilepsy. And so I just focused on that for like 3 months. And then 3 months after that, okay, let's start introducing Parkinson's patients to you. And so it was this gradual training of widening my expertise. They were very supportive. I learned a lot. It was great.
That is so fantastic. What kind of emotional support and did you need for yourself to make it through your hard time, but also get retooled to, write a different chapter in your life's book?
Well, I was very lucky. I was surrounded by knowledgeable health professionals that were friends and colleagues that really stayed on top of my recovery. And my husband is very supportive. My family is very supportive and understanding. And then because it was a car accident, I did have to hire a lawyer
Mhm.
and to help with the third party costs. And the lawyer was actually really helpful in getting me to the specialists I needed that made huge impacts on my recovery. So I always, in my book, I say, if you think you need to hire a lawyer, then you should hire a lawyer. Just
So
get,
smart.
yeah,
So smart. No one wants to be that person, they think. But when you have an accident, you don't know what the future holds for your health. And so it's so wise to err on the side of caution, and how wonderful that this person helped segue you to the right place to get that treatment you needed.
exactly. Yes, it was definitely a blessing. It was a struggle at first to get the care that I needed.
Mhm.
But then once I hired the lawyer, I really felt like I had another person in my corner supporting me in my fight to get back to life again.
That is fantastic. So, how long did you work then? You worked in cardiology, but now how long did you stay in this new nursing?
I worked for 7 years and then I just recently retired so I can do my advocacy work full time.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it started out with the book. And the reason why I wanted to write the book was after the time when I was off for 3 months was ending, like 2 weeks before, and I was supposed to go back to work. I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know what I need to support my brain so I could be the best person I can be for my patient. So it was very anxiety provoking. And I was flipping through my books and going to the websites again and again, all these various resources to help cobble together strategies and compensatory tools to help support me while I was at work. And when I decided to write my book, I didn't want to write about my story. I didn't want to write a memoir. There's a lot of those type of books out there and available, and they're great. I wanted my book to be easy to read, straight to the point, with easy to implement strategies to help someone like me with a mild concussion or a mild traumatic brain injury to be able to use these strategies to go back to work while their brain was healing.
That's
And so
true.
that's how my book came about.
I love it. And what did the title end up being? Tell the
After the crash, how to keep your job, stay in school, and live life after a brain injury. And it's on Audible.
Terrific.
It's on Audible too, because that was really important. Because after my concussion, I went from being an avid reader to only tolerating 5 to 10 minutes of reading
Uh,
and without getting headaches and dizziness. So sometimes some people after their brain injury will have difficulty reading. So it was really important for me to make sure that my book was on Audible so people could listen to it if they're not ready to read yet.
I like that so much. I mean, it's a matter of accessibility. The human brain anymore is geared for like 90 seconds of attention with TikTok and with different social media. And we're so instant, gratification. So it seems like we're more listening to podcasts and reading traditional books. So having an audiobook is brilliant. Just for the mainstream, people love audiobooks. They're finding, that's growing in sales, and also for accessibility. And so
Mhm.
good for you for getting that done. Did you narrate it yourself?
I did.
That's not
That was
easy.
No, it wasn't. It took me about 4 days to narrate it, and that was spread over like 3 months of time. It was exhausting. Because I don't. I have still a lot of neuro fatigue, and so having to read and articulate and maintain my voice, yeah, that was a challenge, but it was a great learning experience. I really enjoyed it. I had a fantastic engineer who read along with me. He would catch my mishaps and correct me, and we would re-record. And Yeah, it was really neat experience.
I like that. And, it's wonderful because you sought to serve other people by writing this book. And yet it probably helped you also as you're learning these new skills. You and I were speaking before we started recording, and that really does help the brain also develop new neural pathways. So, it's a win win in every situation.
Yes, definitely. Even people who have healthy brains, you should encourage neuroplasticity because over time, aging, you have brain cells that die, and learning new things is definitely a way to combat the encroachment of dementia for sure for all of us.
I think that's terrific. That's fantastic. I narrated my own audiobook on something completely different a few months ago, and it sounds so easy, like, oh, all you have to do is read your own writing. How hard can it be? No, it is hard. And I think the hardest part is editing and redoing things in the same energy that you initially recorded. So good for you. That's not just any little thing that you learned. That was a huge learning curve that you took on and won. So fantastic. Are you pleased with the results when you hear from readers?
Yes, I have gotten some just heart-touching five-star reviews that have made me cry, and they have let me know that I nailed it. I the book turned out the way I wanted it to, and I appreciate those that have reviewed my book to let me know how much they like the book, and it also helps promote the book, and when people go to buy a book, the reviews let the readers know that that book is worth their investment in time, energy, and money. And so I really do appreciate the reviews that I have gotten.
That is beautiful, and you can't ask for more. That is fantastic. I love the title because it so lets you know what's inside the book. It's just
Yes.
everything a person would need to know. Like, I wonder what Kelly Tuttle's book is about. Well, here it is. Oh, and
Yes.
that's the point of having a title. So good job. That's
Thank you.
really exciting. Well, so what is your day-to-day life like now that in retirement, quote unquote? Sounds very busy.
It is, and I love it. It's so I have a YouTube channel where I make quick, straight to the point videos on brain injury symptoms and the specialists you can see to help you with them and any strategies or tools that I use to help cope with them. So I really try to make an easy, accessible way of people kind of grabbing that information before they head to work or while they're at work. And then I have a Substack, and so I'm putting out a new kind of a newsletter about every week. I make them short also and easy to read. They're usually less than a 3-minute read. I'll try to make it to the point. And I am about to launch an online program that has really niched the content in my book down to the person that needs to go to work with even new content that I've learned since writing the book. And I'll be launching that soon. And it'll also include a download to a journal I created to help people journal their recovery. And I wrote another ebook that kind of expands the last part of my book even further with additional information where I talk about getting behind the wheel. And I mean, it's getting behind the wheel and driving because that can be an issue after a brain injury, but also getting behind the wheel of life.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm really impressed that you have gone through such a terrible experience that a lot of people would have said, well, maybe I could just collect disability and stay home. And instead, you leverage that to, rewrite what was going to come next in your life and help other people in the same circumstances. And it sounds, frankly, like it's an exciting retirement, not dull. You're not
Well,
exactly
no.
catching up on the Real Housewives, but not that you don't, but there's always room for that. But I mean, it does sound like it's very rewarding. And I'm so glad for you and for everyone whose lives you've touched. Now, Kelly, where would you like people to go to learn more about you and your work?
You can go to my website, kellytuttle.org, and you can get my book there. I also have a free download that I call the Stressless Medical Sheet as we know here in the US, our appointments are with our doctors seem really short, and they are. I'll tell
Yes.
you, they're about 10 to 20 minutes if you're lucky. And the sheet I created are all the questions your doctor's going to want to know to be able to make a diagnosis and a plan so that in a quick and concise way, you can say, I have dizziness. It gets worse when I watch action movies on TV. It gets better when I am well rested and I have tried wearing blue light glasses. And then your doctor's going to go, oh, okay, because dizziness is a non-specific diagnosis that can be caused by a whole lot of things. So if you can tell what makes your dizziness worse better, that'll tell your doctor, oh, you're having dizziness when your eyes are tracking fast-moving objects. Okay, you need to see a neurotherapist to get your eye tracking abilities assessed and supported by eye exercises and so forth.
Sure.
So yeah,
Wonderful.
they can go there, kellytuttle.org, download that, make lots of copies, fill them out. Anybody can, not just somebody with a brain injury, but anybody with an illness to
I love it.
support and make sure they get the best out of that appointment that they can.
And you would know because you are, in fact, a nurse. I mean, you've had all of your training, your credentialing, your ongoing CEUs or CMEs. Is it CMEs? What is it?
Yes, certified.
CMEs.
Yeah.
Like, oops, got my letters wrong. And yeah, so I mean, that's an added bonus is that you really do have the credentials and the background for this. And then you walked in their shoes. So it's wonderful. And so people can learn about your reading, your YouTube channel, and everything there at kellytuttle.org.
Yes.
Correct? Perfect. Thank you
Yep.
so much for being here on Persistence U today, Kelly. This has been great.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. Thank you for listening. Now, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating and review or share with a friend. And if you really, really liked it, go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week on Persistence U with Lisbeth.